Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Tonight, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyum. Tonight we are looking back at the legislative session. None other than the North Carolina House Speaker Tim Moore is here, and he is a Republican from Cleveland County. Again, welcome back to the program,
Thanks,
sir. The Syrian refugee issue and national security here in the United States is really taking a life of its own here in North Carolina as well. We saw the Special Gov Ops Committee that met and discussed this issue as well. What can the legislature do on this issue, and what do you hope to do to tackle this issue, if anything?
Well, what we've done is send a message through in support of the governor that until we have more robust security measures in place, we have to be very careful about admitting folks into the state from these war-torn areas. You know, it's a tough balance. We want to be compassionate to those refugees who are seeking asylum, who love freedom and love democracy and are tired of this, with the very real risk, as shown recently by the events in San Bernardino, that there are folks who want to commit heinous and terrorist acts here in this country. And we have to be very vigilant. With all due respect to the President, I think he is wrong. I think he has weakened our country in the way we have dealt internationally with other countries. And it's going to fall on the states to have to clean up part of the mess, frankly, the federal government is causing with this. We should not be bringing folks who may be dangerous to this country. And as much as we can do as lawmakers in North Carolina, we're standing up saying not here.
So do you think that the states should be denying entry to these folks regardless of what the federal government says?
We should do all, there's a lot of things that we can't do. I mean, this is the basic federalism. The federal government controls a lot of this. But in as much as we can, we need to make sure that folks who are potentially dangerous are not admitted into the state, and that we have, that we appropriately fund law enforcement so they can monitor these issues. I mean, it's so easy for terrorists to go out and do these things. We have so many what's called soft targets, from government buildings to high school ball games, you name it. We're lucky to live in a free society, but there are those who want to do harm to us who will take advantage of that, and we have to be vigilant.
We saw what happened in Indiana. I mean, what you're alluding to is that the state doesn't really have a lot of control where they send refugees. But do you think publicly the governor and the Republican leadership should say, don't come to our state?
Until there are some robust protections in place to make sure that they're solid, to make sure that we're catching those who would want to do harm, we have to do that. I mean, we owe it to the folks that live in this state. We can't be just willy-nilly admitting folks who may pose a danger.
All right, we only have a little bit of time left, but I have to ask you about this. Senator Rucho and Senator Apodaca, the bulldogs of the Senate, they're retiring after next session. Was there some cheers inside the House Republican caucus that those individuals are going to be retiring? You know,
I like both of those gentlemen and have nothing but the highest respect, and have enjoyed working with Senator Apodaca and Senator Rucho. And I wish them well in the future, and certainly have thanked them for their service. There'll be a time when all of us decide to leave, and there'll be folks who cheer when I leave. I guess that's part of it. But they're good men who've taken a lot of time away from their careers and their families to be here, and I'm certainly grateful for everything they've done.
I say that in jest sometimes too, because even in families, people are a pain in the butt to each other. The negotiations are tough, right? Even though you're all Republicans.
It is. Well, you have folks who have very solid opinions on both sides, in the Senate and in the House, and the reason sometimes things take a while to get done is because both sides believe they're right, and to get folks to move closer together and compromise takes some time. So there's something to be said about having solid convictions and being confident in your beliefs. That's a good thing, and that's where we are. But at the same time, when it comes to getting compromise, sometimes it takes us a little while to get there.
Well, and even within your own family, we saw the dust up with Representative Burr the past week or so. How do you know when those things get serious enough where they're an issue outside of some pretty firm comments, and some would say accusations?
I think folks sort of take all of that in stride. They know this is just internal politics, and as the voters did not send any of us up here to play partisan politics. The voters want us to come up here and deal with real problems. They want good schools. They want safe roads. They want to make sure that we're doing all we can to fund public safety and police and promote jobs and economic development. Most voters out there could care less about a dispute within a political party's caucus, and I think we as legislators have to rise above all that and remember that we work for the folks back home who expect us to get our work done and not play politics.
Your conference chair, Charles Jeter, was on the program not too long ago, and we were talking about that, and he said, you know, there's not going to be anybody primarying each other. I mean, is that for sure that there's going to be no talk of anybody primarying each other, no money spent on anything like that?
No, I can tell you, I'm out right now helping recruit candidates for the general election. I want to make sure that we have Republicans running in all of the seats. That's my goal. And I also am out working to try to raise money for individual candidates and for the caucus, because at the end of the day, I want to see a conservative majority in the State House so that we can continue the good work we've been doing all these past 5 years.
I don't have time to detail and get into all of it, obviously, but there has been a lot of reporting about several people's campaign finance reports as well. Mm-hmm. Can you tell people today that all these people's and all these campaign finance problems are not problems, that this is just part of what the law is and what campaigns are these days?
You know, when it comes to campaign finance reporting, it's very difficult, and that's why in my case, for example, I hired an accountant to do mine, and it's very difficult, and a lot of folks try to do this themselves and try to follow the law as best they can, but there's a lot of gray areas where you're not sure what to do or how to spend. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that members have a good, solid understanding of what, in fact, the rules are, because I believe everybody wants to stay within the rules and wants to do the right thing, but sometimes folks report it wrong or don't put in all the information that's necessary. But the easy thing there is, of course, just to go back and amend it. That's what a number of folks are doing.
Some of the skeptics are going to say whether it's suits or trying to get reimbursed at a federal level or how rent is paid is skirting the line, and what Republicans promise not to do and being transparent and moving forward from past. You don't agree with that?
I think everything that I've seen, folks have had a legitimate reason for how campaign funds have been spent, and I think it's up to those members to account to their donors, their supporters, and their constituents on it. Clearly, if somebody does something illegal, they'll have to deal with that with the state board. But everything that I'm aware of, Tim, that's been talked about out there has been within the confines of the law.
All right, we are almost out of time, literally, but you got big holiday plans?
I do. I'm gonna, as usual, I'm gonna eat too much, but and spend time with family.
Well, you get some rest.
Hope you will as well.
I will. Thank you. And you have until April 25th, but of course you got, I'm sure, busy in between now and then. Thank you for sharing a little bit of time today. Appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and your family. That is all the time we have for tonight. As always, we appreciate you watching. Have a great evening. Remember, we're on every weeknight, 7 to midnight. Good evening.